Music for global change. Creating music that inspires the world. Welcome to the Music for Global Change broadcast. And now here's your hosts, founder and music ambassador Skyler Jett with Deborah, Fennella and Tom Bryant.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to start a revolution? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to start a revolution?
Okay, welcome to the show, Nani, world's first original Ladino artist. You've recorded the world's first Ladino album of original songs, which is fantastic, which you've got a copy of right there. You've represented the Netherlands at the EU Music Festival in Vietnam and performed at the Kennedy Center in the US as well. You've been awarded the Arts Council England Premier Award UK in 2019. You were awarded the iTunes Top 20 Bestseller in the Netherlands for 2015, among others. So welcome to the show, and perhaps you can tell us more.
Well, as you can see, the album is finished, and to be honest, I don't know if it's the first one that is original, but it is definitely the first one that is singer-songwriter style. There are some songs in Ladino that are being written today, but they are kind of in the traditional style from 500 years ago. So what I did in this album, which I think is unique, is that I kind of regarded it as a language of our times instead of regarding it as something ancient. Because if you try to kind of fake a feeling that you don't really have, you end up copying something. And if you write a timepiece with your own thoughts, you know, with topics that are relevant to your own psyche today, to society or whatever it is, so then it makes it more real. And I think anything that can be written with that perspective, a novel or an album or a choreography, has a better latch onto the times that we are. Like, you know, like what Nina Simone said, that artists should reflect the times they're living in. Definitely. So that's what I was trying to do with the album, hopefully.
What's the album title?
Yeah, it's called Que Haber, which means what's new.
Okay.
What's new? Okay, well, listen, it's really wonderful to have you on. Are you touring currently?
Yeah, I just now played a show on BBC Three Radio that will air on Saturday. And I have some shows coming up in the Netherlands in March and in April. And then after that, we're going on a world tour. So we're starting with Germany, Canary Islands, Norway, the US, Canada, the Czech Republic, Israel, a lot of things.
Yeah, busy.
When you say we, who is we?
Well, with my band, with my trio.
Wow. So you got to get a lot of visas lined up before you can go.
That's the draggy part of of being a musician. But you gotta, you know, because, I mean, like, you can't have the luxury of the past just being a musician and just doing your thing, because, you know, the record company industry is kind of crumbled already. So as a musician, you got to wear a lot of hats. And that's why I also started the Why DIY Music platform, helping musicians break themselves through the international music scene.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
That's brilliant. Thanks. Thanks for being on my podcast also.
Music for Global Change is about lyrical content that heals, educates, and solves problems. What's your feeling about it?
Well, I think we really have to discuss topics that are relevant to us today. So for instance, in the album that I just released, I'm discussing the idea of gender, the idea of female empowerment, online bullying. I found this very ancient text from the 11th century, written by this Jewish saint, Shmuel Anagid. He wrote homoerotic poetry, which is like super interesting, because he defines himself as Orthodox, and he's like one of the famous saints. And then I released the song, and everybody were like, "Are you outing Shmuel Anagid?"
Yeah. You know? Oh wow.
Yes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not trying to out anybody. I'm just saying, you know, this is another perspective that maybe these cultures were kind of more enlightened than we are today. Maybe they had more insight or maybe less judgment about themselves than we have.
Yeah.
So maybe accepting other people is a lesson that we're going through for years. You know, it's not just our generation.
I got you. So with your trio, do they sing too?
Well, they don't like singing, to be honest. They play guitar and drums, percussion. And I let them sing sometimes, but they're like always a bit reluctant. They're like, yeah, we're not good singers.
And what kind of venues are they?
We play some showcases, so they're like exposure events. We play theaters, we play festivals. There are like 3 really big folk festivals in the States that we're going to play. The Richmond Folk Festival, Montana Folk Festival, and it's North Carolina Folk Festival. And they're like big. They're like Woodstock type events, like 200,000 people. You know, Main Street. And it's like super awesome. But we also do like 5 concerts with a symphony orchestra. So it's there's a lot of different types.
Wow.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Tom, you got a question?
Obviously, the Ladino language, where did that come from? What's the inspiration, the background for you for singing that and bringing that to the masses?
My grandmother spoke Ladino, so I kind of learned the traditional songs from her. But because my dad was kind of a purist and also a refugee, because you know my family escaped Morocco because of the pogroms in the 50s. And when he came to Israel, he wanted to leave the past behind, and he didn't want to have any contact with anything that sounded like home. So he forbade us to speak Ladino.
Okay.
Oh wow.
It was like he was super strict. So then I only spoke Ladino with my grandmother in secret, you know, in the kitchen when we were cooking, singing songs and stuff. So it was like our private little language.
Yeah.
And she passed away when I was 12, so it was quite early.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time with her. And then I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. Like I was disconnected from my heritage for a long time. And then I was invited to play a jazz concert in Morocco. And I thought like, well, that's the first time I've ever been to Morocco, so I'm going to visit my grandmother's hometown in Fez. So I went there, and on the streets, I heard people sing in Ladino, like in a natural way, you know, like with each other. They sang a melody that I recognized from my childhood, and I thought like it gave me an inspiration to dig deeper. Like at that point, I wasn't even sure what it was, you know, so it took a few months before like, oh, it was that song, and maybe I can find another song. And I did like a 2-year research. I went back to study the language with a rabbi from Leiden in the Netherlands. And after all this, I kind of organically decided to release an album of traditional songs.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on doing that before. And then we toured with this program for like 3 years. And that wasn't enough, you know. I thought like, I gotta write new songs in that language, because like I'm a singer-songwriter. I can't just play covers all the time. So then that's why I made this album. And then the idea of making it relevant to today is because that's what I feel.
Was the process of writing it a lot longer because you had to kind of write it in that language? Did you feel the album took longer to produce and think about because of that? Or
yes, absolutely. It took like maybe 3-4 months to just write all the songs. Normally, I mean, it takes, when you get the inspiration, it can even take 20 minutes to write a song. But like but this album required more work. I had to study the language. I had to kind of find the right grammatical structure. I've written the texts, and then I sent them for review. Somebody will correct my grammar, and they will send back. Only then I could compose them, and then sometimes things don't work because after the grammatical correction, so then you go and revise, and a
lot of work.
There's like work in it, but it was good work, you know. I felt like I tapped into something that I didn't know I had. When I came to do this, I feared it. I thought like, oh, I can't do it. And then when I did do it, it was very empowering, like to realize, we can do way more than what we imagine we can.
That's brilliant. It's fantastic.
Some songs are in English and other languages, right?
In the other albums, I've done some English songs that I've written myself. In this specific album, we have one cover version, Shape of My Heart by Sting.
Oh, my favorite song.
I love this song.
Great.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Out of all the songs that's my favorite song.
Is it really? It's like, I think it's probably either my favorite or my top 3. It's like, I have a special connection with this song. I heard it for the first time when I was 9 years old, and I was like super connecting with this, and I didn't know why. And only later, when I started performing it, I realized it had another dimension, and I mashed it up with one of my songs.
Okay.
The Shape of My Heart, mashed up with Mi Corazón, one of my songs in Ladino. So that version is on the record.
Now, do you play that on piano?
On the album, I played trombone on this song.
Trombone, wow.
Oh, no, she's amazing.
It's right here.
I see you got a piano behind you. Can you play us a song?
Go for it. This is so cool.
Oh, I love this stuff.
Bit of live music.
One of your songs, that's great.
One of my songs.
If you got a social conscious song, do you have one that's kind of social conscious?
A lot of them.
Okay, we're ready.
This one is called Sin Ningún Hijo Varón, which means without any sons. And it's a song about a girl who wants to become a boy. So she steps up to her parents and says, well, you always wanted a boy, you have 7 daughters, and it's never been enough. So I'll be the boy.
Okay.
Okay.
Maldita tripa de madre que 7 hijas parió. Maldita tripa de madre sin ningún hijo varón. No más maldigas mi padre, no más maldigas mi señor. No más maldigas mi padre, no más maldigas mi señor. Si es para la vuestra guerra, la beso yo. Si es para la vuestra guerra, la beso yo. No más maldigas mi padre, no más maldigas mi señor. No más maldigas mi padre, no más maldigas mi señor. No más maldigas mi señor. Calla, calla tú, mi hija, que es vergüenza y vida yo. Calla, calla tú, mi hija, que es vergüenza y vida yo. No más maldigas mi padre, no más maldigas mi señor. No más maldigas mi padre, no más maldigas mi señor. No más maldigas mi señor.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your
That's
voice is a beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You a soprano?
They are debating it. Well, or like officially, I'm what they call the soprano spinto, which
Okay.
means that you can sing both the range of the soprano and the alto, but
Yeah.
your voice is darker.
Okay.
It's like this, I don't know. So like, I think I'm a mezzo, but like that I can reach high. But
Yeah.
Well, you can.
Definitely. Yeah.
I love it. There was no problem whatsoever.
Sounded like a really powerful song, kind of, it had builds of emotion in it, and I mean, obviously I didn't understand it, but it sounded very emotional.
Thanks. I mean, it's a very powerful text, like there's the characters. It's like a Greek choir. You have like three main characters, a father, a daughter, and a mother, and then the 7 daughters who are the Greek choir. And then the father starts with complaining, like, I always wanted a son. What's wrong with you? Your womb is cursed.
Wow.
You gotta give me a son.
I understand.
And then the mother is like, nah, don't curse us. And the daughters join, don't curse us. And then this one daughter steps up and she says, well, no, I have the making of a man.
Wow.
I will be the boy you always wanted.
Yeah.
And they don't accept her. They're like, you're an abomination. And at the end, the mother comes around.
Okay.
Like the father denounces her, but the mother says, no, I accept you as my son.
Yeah.
Wow.
The end.
What a powerful song. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
When you try to teach musicians how that works, how do you start with that?
I give them a lot of case studies. I share a lot of stories from the road, things that happened to me personally, and I use these examples to connect to real life, because it's not so much about inspiration, but like showing not only that everything can go wrong, but also that everything can be solved. Because, even though you have encountered all these problems, you can still make it as a musician and make a living from your art, which is a big thing. I mean, not a lot of people manage to do that. And then I always want to hear the musician's side of the story, to hear where they are in their career. So, and I kind of pinpoint like between one of 1, 2, 3, let's say, topics that they need to improve in. And then we kind of work on that for the first month and a half. And then we write a business plan. We find your USP, unique selling point, how they can distinguish themselves from other artists. And then we go from there to launch like a promotional package and to see what they can do on social media, crowdfunding, newsletter subscribers, all that stuff. And of course, developing meaningful and long-lasting relationships with programmers and festivals and commissions and funds, because these things are like a big liability for a lot of musicians that are not able to write their own applications and develop meaningful relationships. Mostly it's about give and take, most people think. And I think it's more than that. Well, my motto is that you always need to help when you can. So instead of telling people you got to book me, I ask, how can I help you?
Right.
That's a different kind of attitude. Not a lot of people recognize that. We work together on their stuff. Then all of a sudden, I end up getting recommended to play at the Kennedy Center, from one of these contests.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how it works. You put some good into the world, some good will come back.
Yeah. I remember my uncle had a boxer, and he was, he was a manager of the boxer and stuff.
Yeah.
And he went to Las Vegas, and his boxer was about to fight this big mafia guy's son. Right. And so my uncle started getting nervous, should we beat him or you know what I mean? So he beat the guy. And then afterwards they came backstage and said, maybe you should sell us your boxer and you get out the way. And he said, I got so nervous, you know what I mean? He was trying to think of a price.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, what's going to be your price? And he just wanted to get out of there because he didn't know if he was going to live or not. Right. So he goes, just give me $10,000. I'm out. Right. And the guy starts laughing, the mafia guys. He said, that's funny. We was prepared to pay you $100,000.
Yeah, that's
how
it goes.
So it's like, don't be scared to ask for what you want, right?
Yeah.
But so he said from then on, he started doing this. He's going, well, what's your budget? Never let somebody corner you by saying, what do you cost, right?
But like sometimes some clients, you kind of have to understand in advance what the psychology and what's the organization behind them. So some of them will be like, oh, we don't negotiate. We get a price quote, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
And then you have to decipher yourself what's the psychology of the business, you know? So sometimes you gotta give a quote. And if you frighten them about how much it's gonna cost, maybe they fly away.
And most people that want you to come play, they don't know what you have to factor in.
Yeah.
Bringing a lot of musicians with you. And for me, I got to get new musicians. Like if I go to Amsterdam, I got some people that will play in Amsterdam. Yeah. And now I'm doing that here in London. It's, totally different band, because my dear friend, Patty Austin, who is a dear friend of mine, she's Quincy Jones' goddaughter. She says, Skyler, I got 3 bands. And I said, why? Because I used to book her bands on the West Coast. Yeah. And then she got a guy in the middle of the country that books. She said, because it started costing me so much money to fly everybody all over the place, that I got 3 bands, one on the way.
That's what I do now.
Makes sense.
Like when I go to the States in June, we have the whole month lined up, but the States is huge, and also flying musicians from the Netherlands to the States and also have them stay with me for a month.
Yeah.
Is not feasible. So like I have a band on the West Coast, I have a band on the East Coast, and I have a band in the Midwest.
I heard that. I can dig it. Are you doing videos with your music?
Yeah, sure.
And what are you posting?
YouTube.
So we can go find you there.
Yeah.
On YouTube. Do it yourself, right?
Yeah, or through my website, nanimusic.com.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So with social conscious music, what is one of your favorite songs that you wrote about?
That I wrote? It's hard to choose your favorite song of yourself written by you. There's a song that I wrote really a long time ago. I think it was 2011, 2012. And it's called Hey You.
Okay.
And it's about self-worth. So a lot of people have the feeling that they are not worth anything and they think less of themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's also, and with this kind of energy, they go out and about in the world. And, when you get this feedback, you also are reluctant to give something else back. And so I wrote the song for everybody who's feeling down, basically, so they can reward themselves while listening to the song with a feeling of self-worth. They belong, that they are here for a reason, that they exist, and that's enough. I think that's a special song for me. And sometimes in the shows, that if people know the album, so they would sing along. So that's always the one song that people sing along to. It's also very special for me to hear from the audience.
And we need that more than anything. Because like you said, there's a lot of people don't have self-worth. And, love is love. You got to give them some love. Yeah. And for young people, you have an advice for them?
Yeah, be stubborn.
What's that mean?
Keep at your thing. Don't let people deter you from what you want to do.
Keep plugging away.
At your path, your vision. Yeah, stay who you are. Well, I'm maybe becoming a bit philosophical here, but I think it's a responsibility that we need to follow our soul's calling or whatever that is. And it's not selfish. It's something, sometimes it's something you were brought here to put into the world. Right. So I'm not doing this because I'm selfish, and that's what I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for ego. Like when I go on stage, I actually cancel myself completely. And then I feel like I'm receiving a lot of information and energy or whatever that goes through me. I become a vessel of passing that message on. It's not my message. I can't say that I wrote all my songs myself, if you know what I mean.
Well, when you write a song, you fall in love with it. And there's 8 billion people on the planet, so nobody's heard it until you can get it in front of them, right?
Yeah.
And then you look for the audience that's perfect for that message. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. You always have to find your people. But I also think that there's something else, that I believe that we we humans coexist with ideas, and
Right.
ideas are also kind of entities. They are not just a dry piece of paper, scrap paper with some words on it. I think like sometimes I literally feel them nudging me on my shoulder and saying like, I want to become alive. I want to be written.
Yes.
So it's not just me that makes all this stuff up. I think there's something else easing me into writing a song. It happened to me like 2 days ago. I was lying in bed, 3 a.m., and I woke up because a song came to me. And
what was
I
that
had to
feeling?
get up and write it.
Yes. I'm crazy about titles because that tells me a lot about what I'm about to hear, right?
Yeah.
And what's the title you chose?
I don't have a title. It's just a melody now.
Oh, you just got the melody.
Yeah. So
Right.
I woke up, I wrote the melody, and I said, I'll deal with the lyrics later.
Yeah. So for many years, I didn't write any music whatsoever. I was a lyricist and a vocal producer, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I would ask musicians, hey, because a lot of musicians don't write lyrics. So I would go, give me some tracks that you melody exhausted on. And I might have to switch them around arrangement wise for lyrical content. They might play me a few things and I go, I only like this part. Okay, so what I did in my car, and I'm old, I'm back with cassettes, right?
Yeah.
So
I remember cassettes. I had a double tape transistor.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! So
one touch record.
Like I was recording from one cassette to the other to make a mixtape.
Exactly. And so in my car, I would put on these tracks because I don't listen to the radio, even though I've been on over 2,500 songs.
Huh.
My friends have to call me and say, "Hey, Skyler, you guys are on that record or something like that, right?" And it's on the radio, so turn to this channel. But what I do is I used to put the cassette on with tracks from musicians that I get. And then for me, for being on these songs, I found out the title is the most important part because that's the part that the average person is going to sing. And it'll go back to that part at least 3 or 4 times in the song, right? So I always write the title first. And what I would do, I put the track on and then I start singing melodies and I take about 15 titles with me in the car and I start singing melodies. And if I found one of them matched the title, that was my hook. Right.
That kind of advice I give to my students when they need to start out their careers. So they're like recording their first album. So what I'm telling them, before you record the album, write the press release for the record. Tell me what you want people to know about the record, and then go and record the record and project that.
Yeah.
Tell the story first about what it's about, and then
Exactly. Tell the story first. Let me know what I'm dealing with. And then when you go into the studio, you will also have a vision. It's like, no, I like this song, so we'll do this one. No, like give me the ballpark. Why are we making this album?
Yeah. And, I find a lot of people that write lyrics, they'll start just writing.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, what does it mean? Now they go, well, I haven't come up with the title yet. Don't start there. Start with the title first because the verse is your opinion of the title.
I agree.
That's your own personal opinion about what the title is going to be. But that last line before you get to the hook, that's the part that has to link it.
The conclusion.
Right? Yes, exactly. Right. So, and I've been doing it for a long time and I love it when they go, oh, wow. I wish I would have started like this at first because I'd have wrote a lot of songs, but I still don't have titles. I got a lot of lyrics where I don't have not put it in sequence with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tom, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I can see from behind you, you've got your trombone there, your piano. You're a multi-talented musician. Do you have a favorite instrument or a favorite way of conducting your music? You just pick. How do you decide then on a song, I'm going to do piano on this, or is it a case of when you write the song, you'll figure out the composition of the music afterwards, or how do you go about that?
It can be anything. It could be sometimes I write songs on the piano. Sometimes I write songs on a trombone. Sometimes it's just hum a cappella. I'm riding my bicycle and writing a song while riding the bicycle. So like sometimes they're kind of predetermined, but sometimes I rearrange them later. And also depends if I'm composing just because something came to me, or because I'm composing to a certain project or a certain concept. So like I would have an arrangement in mind or a formation in mind if I'm writing for a project. Like for instance, for the album, I knew what kind of instruments I wanted to have on the album.
So would you kind of write something specific for the piano or specific for an instrument? Would you have that in mind, kind of think, okay, this song really goes well as a piano only kind of song, or maybe with some kind of trombone accompaniment? Would you build that into the writing of the song?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So sometimes I won't even write for myself. I will write for other instruments. So like on the album, there are songs that have no piano and no trombone. So other musicians are playing because I want that soundscape. And there's even one song that has 4 trombone tracks, which I played all of them, and vocals. So there's no other accompanying instruments.
That's amazing. So you're basically a one-person band in a lot of ways then, because you play everything that you have on your track. Where did that stem from? Presumably from childhood, would it be that you've started with the instruments, or where did the kind of love of playing and learning the music come from for you?
I knew since I know myself, I knew that I wanted to play music. So I started playing piano when I was 5, but my parents say that I've started asking for it when I was 3.
Really?
So So I drove them crazy for 2 years until they consented.
Was it something that's been in your family, music, and kind of, is it something that you've grabbed hold of as something that you love? And
it found me.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I mean, like nobody in my family makes music, not even in the extended family, both sides. So it's different.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. Your album, the one you've showed us earlier, is that your latest album, or are you working on another one now as well? Or?
Well, this one was just released, so now we are releasing the 3rd single in a week, so March 23rd. So we'll be busy touring with this album for at least a year now. Okay. But of course, I already have a lot of other songs, so I think within a year or so, I will go to the studio again.
And do you have a local studio that you go to then that you always use, or can you go different parts of the world? You'll just go to a studio wherever you are, if you're touring, or do you always record in one place?
No, I've done the different albums in different studios, but I guess it also it was kind of depending on what was fitting for the project. So like the second album that I made, Love Migration, had really a singer-songwriter piano bass. So I needed like a great sounding room, like a jazz room with a great sounding piano. So we went to this beautiful studio in Amsterdam that has a Bosendorfer piano, a grand piano, and like we've recorded it in real time, a jazz quartet in the studio. So it has this old sound, it's a live album. It's something else.
Wow, what's the name of that studio? Where's that in Amsterdam?
It's called the Cutting Room.
And how do you know about these places? Do other artists tell you about them, or do you get promotion? Do they come to you and say, "Look, come and record something at our venue"?
Well, sometimes they do, but usually when people approach you to offer you a promotion, it's either that they offer you a limited amount of songs, like come do an EP or come do one song, or that they just offer you to hire them. But if you have a concept album and you want to have a certain sound, then you research for the best place that you want to make it. Like, for instance, for the first album that I made, we recorded it in 3 different places because we needed different instruments that we couldn't transport them. We needed a harp and we needed a string quartet. We needed, there's a lot of stuff. There was a clarinet. There was a real drum kit. You can't put a real drum kit in the studio with the other instruments. So that sometimes you need to be flexible. And the last album was recorded in London, actually, with a very nice sound engineer from Colombia, which has a lot of understanding to this type of music,
Right.
Because like it's in Ladino, but the type of composition is more like Nuevo Canción, like Mercedes Sosa kind of vibe, Mexican Chilean music. I needed somebody who has an understanding of the genre,
Right.
to also help produce the album. It's not enough to have the idea and the musicians and the tracks. They also have to be recorded in a way that is sounding like the music you need to
sympathetic to what you're trying to achieve. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need somebody that knows how to get that from the studio as well. Yeah. The mixing was done in India.
Was it?
Mastering was done in Poland. So we were like all over the world with.
I suppose you were all over it in every stage, were you? Or...
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We had night shifts, mixing and mastering. Wow. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, because of the time difference.
Noam, we want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And if you want to stick around and meet Ronald, that'd be great.
Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all get together, music can save the world. Yeah. Music can save the world. Music can save the world. If we all come together, music can save the world. There's an urgency facing our humanity.